What's up, humans, and welcome to a new Psicoactivo. Okay, so I just finished an interview with Dr. Piotti. I'm going to be editing it and putting it out in Spanish first. So please don't complain about it. That's how I do it. I put them out in Spanish and then I translate them with AI and put them out in English. If you joke about it, it's fine though. But I've seen people like, why are you putting this in Spanish? Only English. This is a bilingual channel, and there's a tab for the Spanish content and the main layout of the channel. But I always put everything I put out in Spanish, I always put it out in English. Not the reverse though, because it would be a lot of work. I already do quite a bit of work. But as the Spanish audience keeps growing, I will start looking at other options so I can have content for both. For now, that's the way it's going to work. So that's coming. But today, happy Thursday, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well. Sorry for the scolding, but I do get a lot of really impatient people on the comments, and I don't like it because I've already explained it quite a bit. To those who are new, that's how it works. So keep that in mind, please. Yesterday, I dropped that leak from the Tic Tac, which in retrospect kind of seems like the documents may be legit. They did say a lot of things that look to be true. I did ask around with people who would be in the know, and they told me that there's a lot in there that are like true, but a lot in there also seems to be like a LARP. So I never said that it was true. I just reported on it, and that's that. I don't know if you guys have noticed the recent signs and the inclination towards something that kind of puzzles me because aside from the UAP disclosure movement, the control disclosure movement, from the beginning, we've seen people like Lou Elizondo, Jay Stratton, George Knapp, Jeremy Corbell saying that they don't believe or they flat out just claim that what we're dealing with is not reverse engineered technology. They believe it's only non-human technology. And the signs keep pointing towards that not being the case. So everything that these guys have been saying for a while is not really true if the signs keep pointing towards we are dealing with both things. And now that the Skywatcher group came forward, they're being more open about this. And I can tell you confidently, because I've spoken to some of them in the background, that they believe that, yes, we're dealing with NHI, but they also believe that it's definitely possible that we have, I mean, humans have technology, whether that was entirely man made and from the story in the 50s, from the G engines are coming and all that stuff that we've talked about here ad nauseum. Whether it's that or it's something that is reverse engineered, we don't know exactly. But now there seems to be some kind of a disconnect that is happening. Just today, a new podcast dropped of Dr. Harold Sonny White, who was in Joe Rogan. And I asked people who are in the defense industry and the aerospace industry who know this guy, and they speak wonders about him. But every time when I see an active DARPA scientist talking about this stuff, they never tell you, yeah, we have this stuff. They insinuate it and they point towards it being maybe possible, or like humanity is like in the early stage of developing something like this. But they never tell you, yeah, we already have that. But the disconnect comes here because Chris Cuomo recently had both James Fowler and Jake Barber from Skywatcher. And James Fowler has been briefing people within the government about this, and he was part of some of the projects, and he's been working on this for years. So he would know what he's talking about when he talks about this. And I got to show you what he says. I'm going to show you two clips from him. Something else that Jake Barber also mentioned about this, And then I'm going to show you where the disconnect is from this DARPA scientist that just came out today on Joe Rogan. So here it is.
Is disclosure more about disclosing secret physics, like Eric Weinstein says, or is disclosure more about little green men? And I tend to lean on disclosure right now, especially from our government, is probably going to be more about physics. And the reason why is one plausible explanation for why we have been exposed to this technology, just so that we can expose the fact that the physics supports these capabilities, with us starting a new age in physics publicly and new technology developments in physics, leading to an improvement in our current status quo. So perhaps our role here at Skywatcher is frankly to observe and report and to begin the reverse engineering of what is being seen. But I would offer, if that is the case, we're going to be 50 years behind any government, because that activity had to have started at least in the 50s or 60s and progressed to what we're seeing now, probably in the 90s, early 2000s. So perhaps that's what's going on, is disclosure is to softly show the world that this technology exists by disclosing to us that the physics behind it exists. Because what we're seeing, as I said, is completely unexplainable.
Yeah. So another part of this was also discussed by these guys, and I'm going to show it to you right now. This is of what we could potentially be dealing with as well.
I personally have chased about 15 UAPs and approximated one within about 200 meters last month. So that's what I know. We have definitive data. We have definitive knowledge. We have no clue who or what's flying these. I'm really on the fence between which entity we're observing when we observe it, but I'm firm in my belief that there's a blue bucket, probably made in America. There's a red bucket, maybe made in China or Russia. And there's another bucket that we don't know where they're from. And I'm confident that we're viewing all three of those in our airspace. And one key thing to note here, Chris, is these observations occur in broad daylight in the middle of U.S. air traffic. So some of the videos we've released, we purposefully put air traffic in the background so people can understand this isn't happening where there's no airplanes or no commercial aviation anywhere. So this is happening in broad daylight, right next to national, international air corridors, sometimes in them. So we've observed from being at altitude with these UAPs that we cannot see them from the air. And so it's our belief that these things are commonly around commercial aviation. In fact, we have photos and videos of UAPs in proximity to commercial aviation from our first sighting in 21. And that continues. So whoever's operating these, if it's blue, is highly illegal. They are not squawking ADSB. They're not adhering to international norms of air traffic. And if it's red, we should be terrified, because that would mean that one of our adversaries has impunity in our airspace and can enter our airspace at their discretion, at their time, and at their location of choosing. And not only don't our forces detect it, they don't counteract it. And I will tell you, I'm in constant communication with our government. I've sat with our government for the last 5 years in SCIFs and asked them, give me an NDA, tell me to shut up, tell me that this is ours, and I'm a patriot, I'll protect national security, and I will stop. Nobody has taken me up on that offer. With the same breath, I've told them, don't tell me anything, because I'm going to talk about this one day, and I don't want to be tied down by NDAs to the government unless you have something you want to share. So my mind is polluted. I'm free to pontificate and think through things, because I hold no oath to secrecy on this topic. And I will tell you that from my observations, I don't believe our government has a clue who this is. And if they do know, it fits into the red or the other category. I would say almost certainly the observations we have, if they are blue, they're very limited.
The disconnect is right here, and I'm going to show it to you again. So this is Sonny.
Sky calls to us. We do not destroy ourselves. We're a one-day venture to the stars. Carl Sagan.
As incredible as it may seem, there will be a time, and it may be closer than you think, when we live on other worlds. The moon, Mars, and in the space between. And when that day comes, just as always, our children will look with curiosity across these new horizons, with a desire to go further and to explore what lies beyond. But beyond Mars, the distances between worlds grow immensely, even within our own solar system, and become truly vast in between stars. If we ever want to reach out across these distances, we need to learn how to go fast.
Nuclear electric propulsion. Here we go.
Yeah, so this is what we know. Using our current knowledge of physics and engineering, we could build nuclear locomotives to take humans to all the worlds in our solar system. But a starship powered with a nuclear heart aimed for even our closest star, Proxima Centauri, would have to harbor hundreds of generations of people, all living their entire lives aboard before reaching its destination, 4.25 light years away. It would take 2 years just to reach the orbit of Saturn, and another 2,000 years to reach Proxima Centauri. We need to be able to go faster.
So Sonny is currently working with DARPA or the government. So there's only so much he can tell you about this stuff. And what James Fowler was talking about is that if there is something, it's hidden right now and they're not talking about it. And you can see the disconnect here because the people from DARPA are going on Joe Rogan's podcast. And the podcast was really, really interesting, though. They talked about what they can talk about, edge science. There's a lot they cannot discuss because it's classified. And what James Fowler and Jake Barber are trying to do is to get it out in the public through what they're trying to do at Skywatcher. And yeah, it's slowly coming out. We also have Dr. Brady Estevez with all of the work she's been doing recently. People are being slowly getting it out, more open about it, which is good. But I find it really interesting that the people from the control disclosure movement, Corbell, Lou Elizondo, Jay Stratton, even Dan Farah, who is coming out with that Age of Disclosure documentary, they keep saying that no, it's impossible that we have that. And I don't think that's true anymore. Initially, I did believe what they said, but now, as more information keeps coming forward, I increasingly believe the opposite. And I do think that these aerospace companies and parts of the government have had this stuff for decades. There's a lot of smoke. We can't ignore it. So, this disconnect, I don't know what needs to happen in order to get both sides on the same coin. I was just talking last night with someone who's part of this effort from the academic side, and we both agreed that this idea of national security and adversarial behavior from certain parts of these people who are trying to get this out from the control disclosure movement, they have a militarized mentality, and they're only thinking about their country's superiority instead of the better of humanity. And I think that's where the disconnect lies. That's why there's classification everywhere. And that's what we're fighting against. We need to sit these people down and make them understand that they can't keep behaving like this, because the countries that are presumably involved in this reverse engineering war and this arms race that seems to be taking place, if they don't talk to each other, we're going to blow each other to oblivion. That's what can happen. And it's very real, very possible. And it's really, really scary. We can't deny that. So I would like to hear your suggestions, because I know that there's a lot of people from this channel, a lot of the subscribers who are convinced that we do have this and we need to fight in order to get it. But I don't think that the reactionary stance is going to work, because that's been happening for decades. And a lot of people have been affected by this. A lot of scientists have been silenced, even unalived, and it hasn't worked that way. So, what would you propose for us to get people to sit on the table and talk about it? And when I mean people, I mean people from the US government, people from the Russian government, and people from the Chinese government, who presumably are already working on this. Because if we keep this mentality of adversarial attitude, we're not going to get anywhere. We can't have another Manhattan Project. Secrecy, spy games, all of that shit. It's not going to work. It's going to end really bad for everybody. And that's the road we're taking right now. So we need to do something diplomatically to get people on the same page and make them understand that it's not a good idea to keep at this. And the secrets of this technology need to get out in the open so we can start trying to really get to the stars. Because This guy, Sonny, spoke about Elon Musk, still like talking about him as if he doesn't know what's going on. I'm not buying that. Nobody is at this point. Absolutely nobody who is trying to look into this UFOs believes at this point that Elon Musk is not aware of what's happening, or Peter Thiel. They are, and they're doing stuff behind the scenes that they're not telling us about. And people need to be worried about that. So we need to get them out in the open and start talking about this, because it's just ridiculous now at this point. I don't know what you guys think about this. Let me know what you think about what Jordan said. He seems to be convinced that, either we're getting some new physics about to be announced alongside the NHI presence. And also there is this concern for the arms race. And the fact that there is people like Sonny talking about this, but like just barely, and mentioning that, oh, we need to get there. We haven't. That doesn't seem to be the case. So I'm not buying it. Let me know what you think about both. And I'm going to leave links in the description for both interviews. I think both were fantastic and you got to see them. So let me know. If you like the content you see, I'm going to ask you to like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you can get notified when a new video drops. If you want to support the channel in any other way, I'm going to leave a few links in the description. Take your pick. You can also support us on KGRA. Or if you like the value you get from this video, consider becoming a member. That'd be really cool from you. Anything you choose to do, thank you for the support, as always. And that's it for me today on this video, but I'll see you guys in the next one. Remember, guys, stay curious and inquisitive. Bye.